You open your eyes, not to light the way you remember it, soft and diffuse, and easy to ignore. This light has weight. It presses against your skin like warm water. You look down at your hands and they are yours, but more yours than they have ever been. The muscles, the tendons, the small scar on your knuckle from something you did at 12 years old, all of it there. But clarified, like a photograph finally brought into focus. You feel hunger. Real, uncomplicated, joyful hunger. The ground beneath your feet is solid. The air carries the smell of something growing. You reach out and touch the bark of a tree, and it is rough and real, and nothing about this moment is vague. This is eternity, and that is not what anyone told you, is it? Somewhere between Sunday school and 1,000 sympathy cards, you absorbed a picture. Clouds, harps, white robes, soft edges, a kind of holy boredom stretching out forever. You never questioned it because you never had to. It was background noise, the wallpaper theology of every funeral you ever sat through. But here's the question that should have been asked a long time ago. Where did that picture actually come from? Because it was not the Bible. And if that picture is wrong, what are you actually preparing for? And here is the one that cuts deepest. What happens to your work, your art, your calling, the things you poured your life into? Does any of it survive the crossing? Hold those questions, because every answer is coming, and the first one rewrites the rest. The two images most people carry into their understanding of heaven are not drawn from Scripture at all. The first is the passive nothing, eternal, floating, formless bliss, boredom dressed up as peace. No body, no location, no purpose, just a vague spiritual mist of contentment. The second is the endless church service, worship forever, with no variation, no work, no hunger, no building, no creating, just one unbroken Sunday morning that never ends. Both images have the same source, and it is not the Bible. Trace them back. Dante's Paradiso, written in the 1300s, gave Western imagination its architecture of heaven as ascending, ethereal, increasingly non-physical as you climb toward God. Raphael's ceiling paintings reinforced it, round-faced angels on clouds, light without substance, the divine as a kind of beautiful emptiness. Victorian greeting card aesthetics softened it even further. Heaven as a pastoral dream where nothing really happens and nobody really needs anything. But underneath all of it, older than any of those, is Greek Platonic philosophy. Plato taught that the physical world is corrupt, that matter is a prison, and that the soul's great escape is upward into pure spirit. That idea, that physical equals corrupt and spiritual equals pure, was never Christian theology. It was Greek philosophy wearing a cross. The tragedy is not only that people believed it, it is that we absorbed it so young and so passively that we never once cross-referenced it against the actual text. Most Christians can quote John 3:16 without hesitation, but ask them to name a single thing Revelation 21 or 22 says people will actually do in the new creation, and the room goes quiet. Stay with this, because that silence is about to end, and what fills it is far more solid than anything you were handed. Picture the morning of eternity. Not a metaphor, an actual morning. Isaiah 65 verses 21 and 22 say plainly, "They will build houses and dwell in them, and they will plant vineyards and eat their fruit." God is not describing a feeling there. He is describing an activity. Hands in soil, timber measured and cut, a vine trained along a wall, and then fruit eaten. Real fruit, from a real vine, grown by real hands, tasted by a real tongue. Revelation 22 verse 2 shows the tree of life bearing 12 kinds of fruit, yielding its fruit every single month. 12 varieties. A harvest that comes back around again and again, and symbolic trees do not need a harvest schedule. And then comes the proof text that ends the argument before it even starts. Luke 24, verses 41 through 43. The disciples are standing in front of the risen Christ and they are terrified. They think they are seeing a ghost. And Jesus, in his resurrection body, the body that walked out of the sealed tomb after the stone was rolled away, the body that is the first installment of everything we will become, says to them, "Do you have anything here to eat?" They hand him a piece of broiled fish, and he takes it, and he eats it in front of all of them. Jesus did not eat symbolically that day. He chewed, he swallowed, he tasted. Here is the mirror you cannot step around. If the resurrected Christ ate real food in his resurrection body, then your resurrection body will too. And the reason you can be sure of it is not your goodness, it is his empty tomb. The cross paid the debt that kept your body in the ground, and the resurrection is God's signed receipt that the payment cleared. The phrase spiritual body in 1 Corinthians 15 does not mean non-physical, it means animated by the Spirit of God. You are not escaping matter, you are being restored to it, more fully and more completely than you have ever once inhabited it. Now look at the city. Revelation 21 verse 2, the New Jerusalem comes down from heaven to earth. Read that again, slowly. It comes down. This is not the story of humans escaping upward to a cloud. This is the story of God's city landing on a renewed earth. Heaven and earth merge, and the dwelling of God is with humanity, on the ground, inside a city with streets and gates and walls. And a city like that needs people who actually know what to do with it. Luke 19, verses 17 through 19. The parable of the minas, where the servant who was faithful with a small amount is told, "Because you have been faithful in a very little, you shall have authority over 10 cities." Jesus is not speaking there in metaphors about abstract spiritual feelings. He is describing governmental responsibility in the age to come. Authority, cities, jurisdiction, the real administration of a real kingdom. Isaiah 65 says they build houses, not that they move into pre-furnished ones. They build. There is planning and labor and the deep satisfaction of something made by hand standing where nothing stood before. And for anyone who still wants to call all of this merely symbolic, Revelation 21 verses 15 through 17 describe the New Jerusalem with walls and gates and precise measurements. The angel measures it with a measuring rod, 12,000 stadia on each side. Symbolic things do not need architects carrying measuring equipment. Revelation 21 verse 26 says the nations will bring their glory into the city, and nations have culture, art, language, music, architecture, all of it carried in through the gates. And verse 24 says, the kings of the earth bring their splendor. Earthly achievement does not get erased at the gate, it gets carried over and offered up. God is not building a retirement village, he is building a kingdom that needs people who already learned how to rule. Now, here is where it gets personal, and where you have to stop reading about other people and look at your own hands. Revelation 14 verse 13 says, "Blessed are the dead who die in the Lord from now on, for their works will follow them." Not their memories of works, their works. The actual works. What was done in faithfulness, in love, in truth, in quiet excellence. It follows them straight through death and into the age to come. 1 Corinthians 3, verses 13 and 14. The work of each builder will be tested by fire, and if the work survives, the builder will receive a reward. So what survives the fire? What was built with truth, with love, with the fear of God, and the care of a craftsman who knew the work mattered. Think about the artist who painted for God's glory in a studio that no one ever once visited. Think about the teacher who poured herself into students nobody else noticed, the ones who slipped through every other crack, the ones she stayed late for on Thursday afternoons when she could have gone home. Think about the mother who raised her children in the Word in a house where nobody was watching and nobody was impressed, and there was no platform and no applause. Think about the man who forgave a wound that never once got acknowledged, who chose mercy in a room where bitterness would have been far easier. Think about the businessman who ran his company with integrity when it cost him the contract, when it cost him the relationship, when it cost him the promotion. None of it evaporates, all of it is carried forward. And hear this clearly so it is never confused. None of those works are how you get in. The cross already settled that. The works are simply what grace produced once it had you. What does this stir in you? The work you have done that no one ever saw, the faithfulness that had no audience and earned no applause. Drop it in the comments, because this next part is for everyone who has ever quietly wondered whether it counted. It counted. Every single piece of it counted. Here is the reversal that changes how you see today. This life is not a waiting room, it is a workshop. You are not killing time until heaven. You are being shaped for it. The faithfulness you practice on an ordinary Tuesday is not just private virtue, it is preparation for a specific assignment in the age to come. The habits of integrity you build right now are not just good character. They are the trustworthiness God is forming in you for something larger. God does not waste a single thing that was done in His name. Now address the fear underneath all of this, because it is real and it deserves a direct answer. Will not eternity eventually get boring? Ephesians 2 verse 7 says that in the coming ages He might show the incomparable riches of His grace. Ages, plural, not one eternal static moment, but unfolding revelation across eternal time. Each age bringing something more of God into view than the age before it ever could. 1 Corinthians 13 verse 12 says, "Then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known." Full knowing is not an instant download. It is an eternal journey into an infinite God. You will never reach the bottom of Him. You will never reach the end. Every discovery only opens into a larger room. And then consider the canvas you have been given to explore. The observable universe, according to NASA's 2016 estimate, contains approximately 2 trillion galaxies. 2 trillion. And Romans 8 verse 21 says that creation itself will be liberated from its bondage to decay. If the new creation includes a renewed cosmos, and the text says it plainly does, then there is no ceiling on exploration, no map that runs out of edges, no question that ever exhausts its answer. And worship is not what replaces all of this. Worship is what all of it becomes when an unbored heart finally does its work before God. You will not run out of God to know. You will not run out of creation to explore. You will not run out of work to do. The boring heaven lie dies right here, in the collision between an infinite God and an infinite creation and a resurrection body that was built for exactly this. If this kind of deep scriptural digging is what you are actually hungry for, not opinions, not trends, but the Word doing its real work, then be part of the community that is here for exactly that. Subscribe and join the people who refuse to settle for shallow answers when the Bible has something this solid to say. Now go back to the beginning. You opened your eyes. The light had weight. Your hands were yours but clarified. The ground was solid. The air smelled like something growing. You felt hunger, and now you finally know what that morning actually means. The hands that felt so real, they are the hands of someone who builds. The hunger. It is the hunger of someone who plants and harvests. The solid ground. It is the ground of a kingdom that needs governing. And everything you carried with you through the crossing, every act of faithfulness, every hour of honest work, every sacrifice made in the dark when no one was watching, it is all there with you, following you exactly as the text said it would, already waiting for you to arrive. What does your work look like right now, with the time you actually have? What are you building while the world is still broken? Leave that in the comments, because I want to know what God has placed in your hands right now. The question itself has shifted underneath you. It is no longer, how do I get to heaven? It is now, what kind of person is God preparing to trust with 10 cities? Luke 16 verse 10 says, "Whoever is faithful in very little is also faithful in much." And here is where all of it pays off. The garden, the city, the fish that Christ ate, the minas, the works that follow you through the grave. They are not separate doctrines stacked beside each other. They are one single picture. A picture of a person being shaped right now for a role that lasts forever. You are not waiting for heaven. Heaven is waiting to see what you became. So open Revelation 21 tonight, if you can. Read it for yourself, not through the filter of a greeting card or a medieval painting or a Greek philosopher who never once knew the risen Christ. Let the text finally speak in its own voice. The Word will do the work it has always done. It does not need your assumptions. It only needs your attention. What God has prepared is not a long and soft and dreamless sleep. It is a kingdom coming down to earth. And it is looking for the people who were faithful with what they were given while the world was still broken. That is the question that outlasts every other question. Not what you believed in a single moment, but what you became across an entire lifetime. What you did with the time. What God is looking at right now.